Julius Caesar arrived in Alexandria in 48 BCE, following the last trail of his enemy, Pompey. But before he reached the palace, messengers brought him the news. Pompey was dead, killed at Pelusium by Egyptian officials eager to influence Rome. Caesar stepped onto Egyptian soil with the war technically resolved, but the political landscape shifting beneath him. Alexandria rose in front of him like a city built for kings, 500,000 people, towering palaces, Greek marble blended with Egyptian ritual, and a royal compound large enough to be a city of its own. Behind the grandeur was turmoil. Egypt's throne was split between two siblings. Ptolemy XIII, a 13-year-old pharaoh surrounded by powerful advisors, controlled the palace. Cleopatra VII, older and far more capable, had been forced out and was gathering loyal forces beyond the city. Caesar entered the palace and saw a court scrambling for advantage. Ptolemy's advisors greeted him with polished speeches and coordinated ceremony, hoping to claim Roman support before Cleopatra could act. But outside the palace walls, Cleopatra was already moving with her own plan. Reaching Caesar meant reclaiming the throne. Failing meant losing Egypt forever. She had one opening, and she was preparing to take it. Cleopatra moved immediately. She slipped toward Alexandria with a small group of loyal attendants, traveling along the Nile at night and avoiding major checkpoints. At this time, she commanded a growing force outside the city. Greek mercenaries and Egyptian supporters gathered at Pelusium, but none of them could help her enter the palace. Reaching Caesar required stealth, not soldiers. So Cleopatra used the palace's daily supply routes. Luxury textiles, furniture, and goods passed through the royal gates constantly, especially because Alexandria was still the wealthiest city in the Mediterranean. Among those deliveries, her allies carried a tightly wrapped carpet. Inside it was Cleopatra. The servants walked through guard posts without suspicion and reached Caesar's private quarters. When the carpet was unrolled, Cleopatra stepped out, calm, self-possessed, and fully aware that this single moment could restore her crown. The impact was immediate. Caesar saw a ruler with legitimate claim, political intelligence, and her own base of power beyond Alexandria's walls. She saw the only ally strong enough to tip the throne dispute. By morning, the palace understood what had happened. Cleopatra was back inside Alexandria, and Caesar had recognized her right to speak for Egypt. The throne dispute was no longer a secret. It was now the spark for a war. Ptolemy's advisors moved immediately. Palace guards deployed through the corridors, checkpoints tightened, and orders spread to isolate Caesar before Cleopatra's position strengthened. Caesar's veterans responded just as fast. They locked down the royal quarter, fortified courtyards, and secured the harbor gate where reinforcements could arrive. Alexandria's ceremonial halls turned into choke points and firing lines. Street fighting erupted across the district. Shields clashed on stairways, arrows crossed courtyards, and fires lit the waterfront as both sides struck at supply routes. Caesar moved between positions, directing the defense at close range and keeping his men organized under constant pressure. But the decisive battle waited outside the city. Ptolemy's main army held the Nile, larger and supported by riverboats. Once Roman reinforcements reached Alexandria, Caesar marched out at once. The confrontation on the river was immediate. Roman legions advanced in tight formations, driving straight into the center of the Egyptian line while cavalry hit the flanks. Archers targeted the crowded riverboats, throwing the Nile into chaos as vessels capsized. Ptolemy fled toward the water, boarded an overloaded boat, and drowned when it overturned in the panic. With their ruler gone, resistance evaporated. Cleopatra's supporters secured the camps. Caesar controlled the field, and the war for Egypt ended in a single charge along the Nile. Cleopatra was restored to the throne according to her father's will, now ruling Egypt with full legitimacy and Roman backing. Caesar stayed in Alexandria long enough to secure the transition, stabilizing the palace, confirming Cleopatra's authority, and ensuring no rival faction could reorganize. Egypt returned to normal administration. Its ports reopened, taxes resumed, and the court reassembled under Cleopatra's control. During this period, Caesar and Cleopatra formed a political partnership that soon became personal. Their alliance produced a son, Caesarion, linking Rome and Egypt through a shared heir. Once the kingdom was stable, Caesar prepared to leave. He had arrived chasing a rival and ended up reshaping Egypt's monarchy. He sailed back toward Rome with the civil war behind him, and Cleopatra remained in Alexandria as the uncontested ruler of the richest kingdom in the Eastern Mediterranean.